Good evening to all the good humans out there. This is the Real Life with Jesus podcast. My name is Andy, also known as Monty, and here with me at the table, you may be thinking, who are these two dudes? They're big, they're massive, but they love Jesus with all their hearts. I've got Michael on my left and Mateo on my right. These dudes are awesome dudes for the Lord. They love Jesus, and they're all about living for him. Thank you guys for joining us on the podcast today.
Thank you so much for allowing me to be here, man. It's honestly, it's a pleasure, and I'm excited. I'm excited for what's about to come. So I appreciate you for having me, man.
Absolutely, man. Thank you.
Nice. Thank you. And we were having some technical difficulties off the bat. Wow, this will probably be just a recording because, all of a sudden, things don't want to work. So it's all good in the hood. We're just going to go off the fly like that, and we're going to keep recording on here and call it a day. So the biggest thing that I do want to interact you guys with is, how long have we known each other?
Well, man, I remember, 13 perhaps? 13 around there. We met at church, and, the rest is kind of history. That's kind of how long I've known you.
Nice. 7 years. And that whole time, it's crazy? He was there. He was just in the shadows.
But you were chilling on the low key. You were just doing your own thing.
Yeah, I don't think we became friends till 2015, was it?
Yeah,
it was my sophomore year. I remember the first time we all hung out. We went fishing on the causeway. You guys remember that?
No.
I remember that. It was late at night.
Super late.
It was almost in the morning time, actually.
Yeah, caught 2 fish. They never came back to me. The line broke. You remember that?
Yes. And we were throwing water. We were throwing rocks in the water. It was illuminating because the bioluminescent stuff.
Was I there?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Yo, that's where this picture's at, actually. That picture that Robin was there, too. Yeah. And there's, a picture of us in, the dark or something like that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
I don't remember.
So, like I said, these are my boys, man. Even though we've only known each other for a short amount of time, comparative to what is, lifetimes of friendships, we're going to be brothers forever. It feels like we've been brothers forever. The Michael Schoon, at The Michael Schoon on Instagram. Go catch that man there. This man is doing the real life with Jesus for real. He avoids all that social media stuff. Nothing on him. If you could do that, that's what you got to do. So if you want to catch this man, you got to catch him at church. That's all we got to say. All right. So that's all we got to say. Hey, so real quick, just so the people can get a little bit to know about y'all. We're very... In our little group, is including Pastor Tito, who you heard earlier, and we'll hear again. Football oriented. We got some rivalries, kind of, not really, but the biggest one I think is between y'all in a sense because we got a Patriots fan and a Kansas City fan.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. That is true. The only
I feel like the Patriots are now the Tampa Bay Patriots now at this point.
Dang.
Sincerely, honestly, I was never really a fan of Buccaneers. Not that I didn't care. It's just
Yeah.
Now I don't mind, rooting for the home team. You know what I'm saying? It is.
Can I ask why you're rooting for the whole team? Is it because
It's definitely. But I'm more of just appreciator of the art, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I love the sport, so it doesn't really matter, whether it be, Brady at the Patriots or Brady, at the Bucks. It's just the game of football. I'm liking it. Who can play? Who's going to pop off? Who's going to show up? And that's
yeah.
it.
So I want to apologize real quick. It seems like there were some technical difficulties. It seems like we've gotten through them all. So let's get to the meat of what we're actually here for. Not to say that we weren't talking, but we were talking and it was funny. But
that's cool, man.
Real quick again, just so that it's there, and I apologize. This is the third episode of the podcast, so bear with us. I'm not an expert here. This is a secondary gig, but it's all for Jesus.
That's it.
So I just need to put that out there so people are not yo, this thing sucks. Bear with us. We are not experts at this. All right. Again, Michael Schoon, Mateo Perez, they're here live with us. They're men that love Jesus. This is at The Michael Schoon on Instagram if you want to catch him there. Like we mentioned earlier, we've known each other for a little whiles. So Mateo, you are in a working environment where, well, outside of Corona, because right now I think both of y'all are working from home, right?
Right. Yeah. The whole Corona thing got me work from home at least.
Yeah. But
do you like it?
Wow.
Oh, I love it. It's fantastic. It's the greatest experience I've ever had in my entire life. I didn't know it was so good until it was offered to me.
No, I don't mind it. It's just like with me. I think we were talking about it earlier. Like working from home. I don't know if you guys can relate, but it makes me less productive than compared to being at the office.
No. I'm the quite opposite, to be honest.
For real?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Hey, so with that being said, with quarantine, how has this affected you on a different level? You both are single men of the Lord. How has this affected you on a different level, on that spiritual level, on that level with I need to be with the Lord level?
I think God's definitely called me out on something because, when everything was normal prior to Corona, running through its chaos.
Yeah.
Like I would always use the excuse of with whether it's quiet times, prayer times or worship. I would always use the excuse like, oh, I have to get this done. I have to take care of this first. Like everything else used to seem to take the priority over my time with the Lord. And I would always push it off. And now that all that stuff's out of the way and I still have an opportunity to, go after that, like that would sometimes be a struggle and I would just become honestly lazy. So I think like it was almost like God's calling me out. Like there's something deeper than this. Like it's not just your time management. There's definitely something different going on because now you have all the time in the world and here you are still like kind of slacking.
Right.
Yep.
Right, exactly. Yep. I feel that. Yeah, definitely. Just kind of to piggyback off of what you said, I'm in the same. What for me in this season, it's more about now that you had the excuse of like, okay, are you receiving from like, are you doing what you have to, like, are you feeding your spirit, if you will? Oh yeah, I'm going to church twice a week. I'm kind of Gucci. Like I'm barely maintaining with those two spiritual meals, if you will. Yeah. Now that those are removed, now the real will prevail. Like now we'll see who's really on that on that spiritual relationship, and then that's really where it comes down to it. Like, okay, like you said, I'm kind of lazy. I'm kind of a procrastinator. Am I doing enough? So I'm kind of like, and it's kind of like in a sense of like it's definitely pushed my relationship to be more intimate and to be more self-driven instead of like, okay, I can because I'm out of place. Now it's more like I got to put the effort in.
Right.
No, yeah, dude, I feel that. Pastor Alicia said something earlier on the Bible study call. She was like, "This is not one of those things you can like fake it till you make it, like, because you won't make it. You know what I mean? Like, there's really no faking it because there's gonna come a point in time where if you did it for real, then you did it for real, and if you didn't, you didn't." So I'm just glad that everybody, like you guys were saying, Corona's been kind of twisting things around. Even with this, this was kind of, I don't want to say birthed out of that because we, like you was talking about earlier before we went on the air, this was something that we were talking about for a while, right?
The formation of this coming together, to do something like this and podcasts and stuff. That's definitely been in the mix for a while.
We were talking about this for a while, just getting us on and just making a fool of ourselves.
Right.
But we love Jesus, like I put in the description, I was like three bros, I love Jesus and living life. Because I honestly, the reason why too, because I was sharing this with them, the reason why is because, like I said before, they're two young men in the Lord. They're single, and they both have a different perspective on, and not a different perspective in the sense of they believe in different Jesuses, but a different perspective of how they go about living with Jesus in their lives. Not anything against the Bible or anything against what is Jesus has called us to do, but that they, like I mentioned before, your work environments are different. The people you work with are different. The way you talk to them and how you live out your faith is different in the workplace and outside of the workplace, because we all have friends that don't believe, and we all try to do our best to reach out to them as well. So with that being said, if we can go back, maybe rewind the clock to before Corona, and even now, let's talk about this one first, because there's a lot of people in your position. I was just talking to another young man earlier. The college life. You went. Are you doing only online? Or you?
Well, yeah, I was. Yeah, we're online at this point.
Only online at this point, and then same because I'm guessing because of this whole thing. But even before, but you both went to university, like you went in person. How was that situation? Like if was there a moment in class where you were like, whoa, this is like hitting my faith hard? Like
just arriving to campus and type.
Anything, whether it be in the classroom, whether it be like you saw something, whether it be somebody said, a professor said something, like it was like, whoa,
okay, I see what you're
faith,
saying,
bro.
definitely. So
like,
freshman year, I had a professor, crazy dude. Guy was nuts, man.
Yeah.
This guy, those type of professors that challenge the way you think, like question everything, man. Like but he was super intelligent, and he was saying some things that were quite, like, oh wow, these are quite, logically sounding. They're quite fancy and it's different. It's just outside the box, and he just kind of brings things to light and so to speak. And then even though I knew, like, I can filter it out. I'm like, oh yeah, this is good. Oh no, you need Jesus, bro. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, even though I can filter out, like, he was on a great track of the way thinking and how, this guy was like, it was philosophy. It was intro to ancient world. So that can just, it just really goes in depth into Greek mythology and the Renaissance and the everything just, it just kind of just takes everything into, like, all that era. And so with that being said, it was that class that it kind of hit not my faith super hard, but it was just like, man, like, I see where people can go astray. Like, I realized, like, okay, the interpretation of what he's saying, if you're not really careful with what he's saying, it could guide you on a path so far from the truth that you were better off not arriving to that class to begin with, spiritually speaking.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So that was one of them, aside of the girls that were there. Well, that's a whole different.
No, I mean, I've never really had an issue on campus that hit my faith so hard to a certain extent.
Yeah.
No, I've never really had an encounter like that. I would just honestly just go to class and go home. That's the community college lifestyle, if you will.
Hey, I mean, not everybody has, like I said, and like I mentioned in the beginning, everybody has a different experience on how they live out their faith. You know what I mean? And what obstacles comes their way. God tests us in different ways, and different trials come our way. The biggest thing, and you guys heard me say this before, you get out of, like, high school is kind of like the easy way. Like, you believe what you believe in. There's maybe a club that believes what you believe. Yeah. And you don't really have to worry about too much because you're in high school. And you're in high school.
Right.
So, but it wasn't, and I don't know if you guys felt this too, it wasn't until I graduated high school, got into the working place, even though you might have been in the working place already. I don't know if you had a job in high school, right?
Yeah.
You had a job in high school, no?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you had the job in high school, but can we agree that something changed after you got out of high school and you started?
Oh yeah, real life hit.
Yeah. So after graduating, it was like, I don't know if you felt this too. We were all believers after we graduated high school, right? Word of Jesus, unashamed. People didn't care. Like, people don't care about your faith. Like, they're like, oh, cool, you like, Jesus. Okay, bye.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it almost in a sense like, oh, how did that bother you? But it's almost to the point where they didn't care. It was like, wait, why? Like, why you believe that? And it almost it almost went into like a debatable argument of like, why do you believe it? And you kind of had to like, watch where you stepped of like trying to say certain things because you're like, now they're looking at you like, oh, he's the believer. He believes in Jesus. So whatever he says is going to sound crazy or whatever. And I don't know if you guys have felt that. I'm like, yo, what? I was unprepared to live in the college and career world. You know what I mean? Where people were like,
right,
cool, go sit over there.
Right.
Like, you believe in Jesus?
It's
cool,
like,
go sit over there.
With some other people, and I'm sure you guys can all attest to this. Like, I'm unashamed of my faith, and I know you guys are. I'm unapologetic about it. I'll say that I'm a believer without question. But once you say that, like, that automatically puts like a target on your back, and like there's people out there just like waiting for you to slip up, just to belittle what God has to say or Christianity as a whole.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys agree.
I've seen that, but me personally, I've never experienced that. Like, where it's been like I've heard it too, so many times too. Like, I've said I've been Christian, now I feel like I'm walking around with a target on my back. They're always trying to say, oh, look, you slipped up, or oh, look, da-da-da.
Yeah, I mean, I feel that only to a certain extent. So, like, that's a lot of in ministry.
You know what I'm saying? That's like more of like a ministry where like, oh, people are more eyes on you because you're in ministry. But that's like a whole different topic. So I never really felt that type of pressure outside of ministry. I've always more felt of especially in college, it's more of like the debating nature of it all.
Yeah,
like,
man.
Especially in college, like these men are just, whoa, like they're just back at it. And then they just hit you with some questions like, listen, dude, I can hug you. That's about it, man. Like, there's nothing much more that I can really combat with what you're trying to say right now.
I think the biggest thing that we get messed up on is like we don't necessarily a lot of people be like, oh, give me something other than the Bible that proves this point, and it's like, but if we're gonna throw away the Bible, then we need to throw away other evidence because the Bible's been proven to be a substantial document to uphold historical things. So if we're going to throw that away. But I feel you 100% where, like, I remember one of the first classes I had in college, this was when the whole dual enrollment thing became a thing, and there was this high school girl in the class, and I forgot how we started. We're in math, dude. We're in math. And I forgot what I said. I think I said I don't do those things. And then, the question got asked behind me, oh, why? And then I was like, I just don't do those things. And then the high school girl, I didn't even know she was in high school until later on. She's like, but why you don't do those things? And I was like, I believe in Jesus. I don't think those things are, right for, whatever. Oh. And I'm like, oh, like, is that not what everybody believes? Like, is this not America? And I might have been ignorant to that. I agree. I was brand new in the faith at the time as well. So I was like all on fire. I'm still on fire for Jesus. But, that brand new faith fire you have, and you're like, yeah, everybody needs to know about Jesus.
Like, you're just going on a Jesus.
Yeah, and so I was Jesus, like ready. I'm going to college, and I'm like, I'm ready for this. I'm going to war. But yeah, I was like, okay, I'm about to get into something I don't think I'm ready for. And that was one of my first little things where they were like, well, why this and why that? I'm like, look, I don't know. All right, I literally said I don't know, but I know what I know. And I know what I want to do. You know what I mean? I think a lot of the times we have a hard time just standing firm in what we believe instead of like we get scared, like, oh, snap, we're about to debate, or we're like, I'm not ready for this, I can't answer your question. I think we need to stand firm in whatever we believe first. Tell them I'll get back to you later if you really want it, but most of the time, they just want to see you fall. They just want to see you cry.
No, for sure, definitely. I think it's definitely about within standing firm, and that happened to me all the time where, like, questions start going so, like, complex and so crazy. I'm just like, I don't know how to answer that. I just don't know. But just to say what you were saying, man, I completely just had a brain fart. I was going to agree with what you were saying, but it just kind of just went through my mind. So sorry about that.
No, you're good. One thing that would, like, I'm very, how do I say this? I tend to, like, worry too much about, like, what other people will think about me or, like, how I'm perceived upon, like, whether they're a believer or not. And that's just one thing I struggle with. It's just a matter of, like, anchoring down on what God thinks about you. Mm-hmm. And what God labels you, not what the world labels about you. So that's why, like, I've always had that fear of, like, having those debates or having those talks or anything like that. Yeah,
no, I agree. I've been through that phase of my life as well as a believer. If we could talk about something real quick, talking about the phases of life, about being a believer, I personally didn't have the privilege, and I say this is a privilege. A lot of people be like, "What? You didn't have to be indoctrinated, whatever." I did not have the privilege of growing up in a family where Christ was first, and that's not to say that my family didn't raise me the very best that they did, because I love my mother to death and I love my father to death, and I love all my step-parents the very well same, and I wish that they knew of this greatness that is Jesus, but I didn't have the privilege of being raised in a home like that. So my experiences with Jesus are a little bit different in the sense of, I don't like to play this game of there's something in the middle real quick where I'm about to say, y'all will be like, whoa. And I'm talking about the audience, and because you guys have heard me say this before, I was serving the devil. What? Yes, the devil. Because there's no middle. The Bible says if you're in the middle, you're lukewarm and God spits you out. And I'm not trying to be spit out. And I didn't even know him when I was growing up until about 17 years old when I did meet the Lord for the first time. So I was serving the devil before. So my experiences with Jesus are very much, I have, discernment a lot because I've seen what evil is. You know what I mean? Like, I know what evil is. So with that being said, and a little bit about that, so the experiences I have are a little bit different. My brother here, you were able to, like, see the church from being young to now. Very short. We don't have to go super deep into in your testimony. How has that impacted your life throughout? Going throughout, like,
throughout the phases of life.
Yeah, like, because what you were.
Right.
You were in church almost like what, your whole life?
Yeah, my whole entire life. I was raised in the gospel since I was young.
Yeah.
So and I guess it's just like you don't really know how much it's really taking deep and root within you. I guess you can say until later down the road, you kind of need it. Like one day, it's kind of like how in that movie Jumanji, El Negrito ese like always has the backpack and always has a tool that he needs at the moment, right?
Yeah.
And it's like almost as if like think of that going to church. Mad Young is going to a place and you got that type of backpack, and then along the way they'll just give you stuff, and you just kind of, it's an infinite bag of, can have so many things, but you just never know until you need it, until you arrive at the situation, and then you kind of just look through it and you're like, oh my god, I need this for exactly right now. And so that's kind of what it was for me. It was just like I didn't know how much church was really influencing. I was young, and I knew that like God was the answer to everything, every problem. Like I knew it, that like what, despite the circumstances, God will give us hope, God will give us strength. Like I knew all of these things because I had the privilege to know, and and crazy, bro. If I can tell you stories about like my childhood, about crazy devotion nights my parents had and whatnot. But with that being said, I always knew when I was going through my phases, like despite whatever phase I'm at, I know God was the answer. God is always going to be the answer. That's just that one thing. It's kind of like, and I know it says in the word, if you raise your children young, they're not gonna, or if you feed them, the word of God, they're not gonna
depart from it.
Depart from it, exactly. Depart from it, exactly. And so that's a depart.
And just to harp on that,
let that one.
Just to harp on that though, we will. Our brother Mateo here, he will be joining us on one of these days to just dive a little bit deeper. He has one of the most honorable testimonies. We all have honorable testimonies, but this man has impacted a lot of people's lives with his testimony alone. And so we have the honor of one day bringing him on and diving a little bit deeper. But there's something about and I have a multitude of friends and just close friends that have grown up in the church, PKs and things like that. And some that, correct me if I'm wrong, kind of consider yourself a PK with everything, all the ministry work your mom did and everything like that. Oh,
yeah, definitely. Well, yeah, and to a certain extent, definitely, they're not no ordinary just choke. Like my parents were never just, the person just to like attend a church. They're always in ministry. So yeah, in a sense, you can kind of say like semi PK-ish. My mom always brings down a word.
Yeah, and like the same thing with my wife. We were talking about earlier. Like she's a PK now, but almost her whole life she's been a PK because her parents are always ministers. And so I always put that together. And I have so many friends that are in that boat of a PK basically. They're PKs, and they all have different stories. They all have experienced God not when they were 8, not until they were like 28, some of them. Not until they were like 18. And that's not to say, they've been a bad Christian their whole life. They represented the church wrong. No, they just found relationship with Jesus at one point.
They found the revelation that everyone needs, man.
Exactly.
It's like...
So, talk about, Michael, if you want to chime in here, just a little bit about where you were going, right? Because we all had that point where we're like, especially for us that grew up in the church. Michael, you kind of grew up in the church too. You were going with your mom.
Yeah.
And I know you both have amazing stories to where even though I was going to the church, it wasn't until X date that I began a relationship with Jesus.
I'm sorry, did you always know the Lord? Like, were you raised in the church? I'm sorry, I didn't want me to interrupt.
No, you're good. Yeah,
you're good. Yeah, I was raised in the church. I didn't really take it serious till I was 14.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely 14. I didn't take it serious until we went to Word of Life. Remember that?
Yeah, no, mine was a few years after that. When I took it serious. But no, I definitely remember that.
No, yeah, that's definitely where the foundation set. I think that's definitely where I was shown the severity of living a Christian life and the consequences of not giving your life to Jesus. In fact, I'm sure we all know what we're talking about here. Right. But yeah, that's I wasn't 15 until that foundation was truly set. Prior to that, it was just going to church, being bored, not really paying attention, just can't wait till I get out.
But it's crazy in those moments you don't realize how much it's taking root.
Right.
Yeah. Until you really need it. It's like the backpack, bro. It's that freaking
backpack. And that's why I say I say this all the time, especially because like I said, my experience is because I didn't have the privilege of being raised in a Christian home. Again, mom and dad, I love you guys to death. Right? And
me too. Not yours. I mean,
you've met both of
his
these.
too.
I love all
His too.
You've met both of these dudes. It's not to say that I wasn't raised right, and I hope that they don't take this any type of offensive way, because finding the Lord was just is the greatest thing that happened to my life. But it's almost like that's the top, right? You realize you found the woman in your life. Boom, I got married. You know, those things that you know, your accolades in life. Like, nothing in your life has been bad. It's just, man, these are like the best accolades of my life. You know what I mean? So, but there's a thing that, you know, I always tell parents, getting back to what we were talking about, is do not, because they're always like, oh, you know, especially when I was coming up, you know, I had to tell people, like, I wasn't always loving Jesus. Like, I started loving Jesus, I was 17, 18. So you got the 17, 18-year-old, remember, in our church, there wasn't a lot of them at a certain point in time, because of whatever. And they were like, oh, can you talk to our kid? Can you talk to our son? Right. You know, this and that. I mean, even at some point, they've been like, they were coming up to you guys where they're like, can you talk to my son? We were like on fire for Jesus. We're always on fire for Jesus. But, you know, they would be like, hey, come pray, you know. And I would always tell them, like, you can do the same thing. Like, do not stop praying for. I even told your mom that a while ago too. Like,
I think I remember that.
And I remember telling her, because she would always want me to talk to you, and I'm always like, I'm always willing. Like, this dude is super cool. Like, I'll talk to him. And even your mom asked me to pray for you too. But I would always be like, do not stop praying, because of what you mentioned about the word. Is that if you root your children in the word of God and you teach them the ways of the Lord, they won't depart from it. I believe that wholeheartedly.
That's so true.
Even for the people that leave and that are backsliding, it's like, oh, but I'm that guy that departed. No, you'll come back.
Yeah.
And if you don't, I'm praying that you come back, because if you don't, it's not a great thing on the other side. But I've always told them, pray, because you don't know the power. Like, this is for parents, strictly for parents. Unless you want to be a parent, you've created a child and it's in the oven waiting. But parents, pray for your children. Yeah. Pray for them.
Yeah.
Cover them with the glory of God. Like, just shield them and cover them and pray for them, because that prodigal son story is in the Bible for a reason.
Oh, yeah.
Not only pray for them, but be willingly, and I hope, and most parents it's not a problem for. Some, you know, mainly, I hate to say it, but male, because of the pride and the ego, we don't, you know, the whole, you know, pride thing and the whole machismo thing, especially on the Spanish side. But be what that prodigal son's father was, and be that open arm, but pray for your kids, because that is something. Again, I'm not trying to harp that my parents were bad, but man, do I wish I had somebody kneeling beside my bed praying for me, or in another room praying for me, or going to war. Like, your mom, she'd be going to war.
That's another thing, bro. I'm
spiritual
here
warfare,
where I'm at.
Sword and like.
Dude, yeah, my mom is a dude. I'm convinced she's like she's some sort of general in the spiritual army. Like, I'm convinced that's what she is. Like,
hey, I believe that. I believe that.
She prays like it's like someone's paying her, bro. Like, you could have sworn she's in here clocking in like a 9 to 5, dog. I'm so serious. It's something crazy.
I believe that.
I
agree.
She prays like something.
No, and it's because of her prayers, bro. I'm at where I'm at, because without him, I wouldn't be where I'm at. And it's crazy, man. Because I know I was at this conference one time, and this preacher, she was just like, God has a special highway made for moms. Like, moms' prayers get a little special highway in answering prayers, or something powerful about a mother's prayer, about their children, about whatever that God just kind of just looks over a little bit more, kind of just tends to. I don't know.
Hey, I've heard stories of people going to heaven, and like, they have the near-death experience, and Jesus told them, you're coming to heaven because of either your mother's prayers or your grandmother's prayers.
Somebody's prayers.
Like, and I'm like, yo, prayer is powerful. People pray. Even to the people now, outside of parents included though, but for everybody, pray. Yeah. Get into a secret place with the Lord. Don't think you have to do it for hours on end. But when you go to war, know that you go to war, and you might take hours on end because you're going to war. There's a spiritual war. The book of Ephesians tells us that our warfare is not between flesh and blood. It's between the powers, the principalities in the air. It's spiritual warfare, people. We cannot forget that. And prayer is one of those tools that gets us there and wins us the good fight with Jesus.
Amen.
That's facts.
Amen to that. Mm-hmm. So I know we spoke about, you know, the college thing a little bit. And like I said, we're getting to know you brothers a little bit more. So you both work, if we can categorize it under one umbrella, call center type scenario.
Yeah.
You know, jobs.
Ish.
Where basically where you go, Customer service.
Yeah,
There you go.
Customer
Yeah.
service. I don't want to say
There you
call center because it's really not either one. Okay, so customer service. So cubicle style type stuff, just for the
Right.
people out there, because like again, we want to connect people.
Corporate world stuff.
Corporate world stuff. We want to connect people to the real life
Yeah.
of Jesus. So in that scenario, especially when you got that, because that wasn't your first job and that wasn't your first job.
No. I think we both started at McDonald's.
I hate it every second of it.
Hey,
Shout out to
Hey,
McDonald's.
Hey,
What's
Big
up?
D.
I can't dap you
We
up.
was
I
killing
hate
it.
This is not a
I
paid
was
sponsorship by
flashing.
McDonald's, but thank
Hey,
you for our
but
first career
McDonald's.
job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's all I have
Yes,
to say.
shout out to the almost
I-
real
I
me. I
literally-
think I don't know. No, I think it's real.
America's best #1 job.
Literally quit within a month.
Well, I didn't. I killed it over there.
Dude, I killed it. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. If you do hear this, McDonald's, if you paid me more and you paid me the salary I get now, I would come work for you at any store and
No.
make that store the greatest store that anybody's ever
That
been
is
to.
very true. That
You
is
can, give
Just
me
saying.
six, you can give me 6 figures. I'll never work for McDonald's, but that's just me.
Hey, man,
McDonald's,
we're trying
I will gladly accept that offer.
Hey, so back to
Right, the corporate world.
the corporate world situation. So, you know, one thing, and this is what I want you guys to talk on. One thing that I've experienced. I don't work in the corporate world, and you both know that.
Right.
They've had a lot of espresso, y'all. There's like some espresso with sugar there. But the one thing that I've experienced in working
Right.
is you find some believers and you don't find others.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Definitely. Right.
The one thing I want to ask about is how have you, because everybody does this, whether it's wrong or right, how have you, and this is going to be a tough word, they're going to be like, well, you don't believe in Jesus, you're not supposed to do that. Everybody does it, especially when you get somewhere first. And that is, how did you compartmentalize your faith when you got there? How did you say, okay, we're going to stay in these lanes until I figure out, you know, until I get a feeling for what-
definitely.
Exactly.
And
See,
how I can maneuver
how-
my Jesus love movement.
So,
but
and everybody's
professionally.
done this. So before you go and be some, you know, Pharisaical and Pharisees and whatever, that's not what Jesus would want. We know, but this is how we learn and
We gotta
how
infiltrate,
we grow.
though. We gotta
and we gotta
infiltrate, though.
infiltrate with our love, and you know they will know us by our love. So we can't just Jesus, and you're gonna go to hell, and
Right.
you gotta feel out
That'll
the
scare 'em.
scenario.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't be just scaring people.
Invite them over for coffee, then tell them you're going to hell. I'm playing. Just kidding, guys.
So on that, I know you're about to just speak. So you know what I'm saying, and you feel me a little bit. How did you, you know, get your boundaries? right? And how'd
Definitely.
you break? How'd you break out of the bound and say, you know what, I'm going in?
Definitely. Oh, 100%. Which is kind of crazy because, you know, first big corporate job, you know, I want to make sure that I'm not stepping onto controversial subjects as in, you know, religion, politics, you know what I'm saying? Things that are kind of, you know, considered quote unquote controversial. Those are the kind of topics that I kind of just try to steer away from. But the moment where I kind of just started to fill out is just kind of like, okay, I peeped some things, you know what I'm saying? Maybe maybe on their cubicle they have like something of John 3:16. I'm like, oh, okay, are you a Christian?
That's
You
the one.
You know what I'm saying? Like
For God so loved the world.
exactly. And then like, oh, you're a Christian, and then boom, and then that opens the door, and then once after that person, once like a little spiritual door opens that we can relate to, and that's like, okay, great, then I'm your best friend now. And then so we kind of like find, and then like once you meet that one person, that person generally already knows all the other Christians in the thing. They kind of introduce you into that.
Shout
inner
out to
circle.
Kanisha, real quick. Sorry. Shout out to Kanisha. She was the one. That person that you were like the one that knows all the other Christians. That's the one.
For me, it was
Rebecca.
It was
Shout out to Rebecca.
Shout out to Rebecca. Me was shout out to Christian or Janelli. Both of these people, they told me everybody. Like I was like, oh, dude, yeah.
We may or may not have Janelli on the show.
We may or may not. We should probably get that arranged.
Stay tuned.
I haven't
to find
reached out yet, but she's on the list. She's
got a
we went to high
promotion
school-
actually, dude.
went to high school together. She actually worked with this guy.
Well, no,
but-
actually, she's moved to different. She still works with me. Technically, it's the same company.
Same
but
company.
She just moved up.
But yeah,
She's doing great.
you know, she's a friend, a believer in Christ,
Right.
and so the whole squad, all y'all, Vision Church, y'all are awesome. If you don't know Vision Church, place to go, place to be. Sorry, getting back to the real.
Right. Yeah. No. So basically, that was that. But when it comes to, because I interact with a lot of people every day via FaceTime, kind of weird stuff, but kind of cool.
Hey.
So those are moments where I have to be very careful because I can't dump religion on them because I'm being recorded on these calls and whatnot. But I want to be slick with them to still get a little something of Jesus, a little splash of Jesus. You know what I'm saying? So I'm trying to think of ways of like how can I move to not get me in trouble, but to let them know, yo, listen, Jesus is the answer, right? So I depending on the person. All right, let me rephrase that. Generally, to most people, I just always try to be careful. I always try to minister without using the word Jesus.
Yeah.
That's just what it comes down to. With everybody that I see, my coworkers, listen, I'm trying to minister without using the word Jesus. Let me show you some love. Hey, do you need help? Oh, listen, you know what I'm saying? Just, just be loved, because that's what God loves. You know what I'm saying? That's what it really is. God, I'm able to love others because God loved me first.
Yeah.
And
that just goes to so that when they come back and they're like, yo, how are you doing this? Then you could be like, all right, since now you asked how I'm doing this, let me tell you about this God.
Like, oh my God, why are you so positive?
Jesus.
Oh, thanks for asking.
Yeah.
Jesus spoon.
So have you figured out, when you first got there, the boundaries, and you're like, all right, now it's time to step out? Have you gotten to that point? I know you're in this job, you're kind of brand new. You haven't broken a year yet.
A little bit over a year now.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Shout out, man.
Holding down a career.
There it is.
How would I feel about saying this?
You can say no, but like, honestly, dude, I have no.
I mean, people just know that I'm relentless about my faith. I mean, people literally call me Baby Jesus at work. My voice cracks.
Hey, that's what's up. That's
lit.
what's up, though. He didn't even let the boundary. Crazy. He didn't even start with the boundary. He said, I'm just going to come in. You know Jesus? No, I know him.
That's another thing. People been like, oh, I see you as a pastor. They call me pastor all the time.
Oh, dang.
I'm so serious.
They just call me church boy. Same thing. Church boy. I'm like, dang, dude, church boy, just Jesus loves you, man. All right, Jesus loves you. No, but one thing I do want to harp on what you said is like trying to find how you can minister to people, especially in that environment where you don't really have a lot of like grounds to actually do it. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And so one thing I learned from, and I think Pastor Sotolongo had a preaching one time, and he was like, he said something, and I was like, I'm going to change my life. I'm going to go out and do it, right? Actually, application, go do it, right? And it was when I started at McDonald's, actually. And I remember it was me and my sister, both applied, both got it. Had some really cool people that we worked with. And at McDonald's, and I think we were talking about this the other day too. Mm-hmm. You always had like those repeat customers that kind of came at every single time of the day, like the same time every day.
The regular schmegulars.
Yeah, and it'd be sweet old people, But one thing I realize is saying "Have a blessed day" or "God bless you."
Boom. That's exactly what I'm saying.
This one. And I'll never stop saying it. I don't have a corporate job anymore where I'm on the phone. I worked at T-Mobile for a little bit. And I would say it on there. And it happened at T-Mobile too. But at McDonald's is where it hit me and impacted me the most, is because I was working the drive-through line. And that's where I would love to be in the back taking cash. I would get those cars moving. And I told this lady, "Have a blessed day," one time. And, at one point in the line, it just gets stuck. So you're there kind of that awkward moment where the window's still open because it didn't want to close automatically. So you're kind of there. And I said, "Have a blessed day." And I went back to the thing to take, and you're still taking the next order. And then she waited until I was done taking the next order. There wasn't another car. It kind of went behind her, but it was still backed up. And she said, "Thank you so much, because you don't know, by you saying those 3 little words, how much of a relief that was." And I was like, "What?" And she kind of like broke down, and I was like, if you want to give me your name, I'll pray for you. And she gave me her name. Her name was Shirley. And I, and we prayed for her. And I was like, what? Just have a blessed day. Like, yeah, that's it. Like, and then it had me realize, like, I can't limit the power of God. Like, who am I to limit the limitless God?
That's crazy. Because, 100%, because I feel you on that. Because, I forgot who it was I was speaking to at church, but I think it was I just told someone that I loved them. Yeah. I just met him. If you don't know me, I'll tell you I love you. Like the first time I ever see you, hey, I love you. I just, that's just how I am.
This is him, bro.
I just love to love.
It's a God-given love, yeah.
Yeah, this is really what it is. And so I met this person first time ever, and it's very shy, very timid. I just give him a hug. I'm like, dude, I love you, man. It was great meeting you. You know what I'm saying? Here's my name. Here's my number. If you need me, reach out. Don't feel any type of awkwardness, dude. I'm here for you. Love you, dude. Yeah. And then months later, he was like, man, you don't know how much that ministered to me. Mm-hmm. Because it's like, wow, because he said, you know, I looked at you and you were just so filled with love, and I want that, and I know you always talk about Jesus, and it's always, and you always pointing to Jesus, like, you know what I'm saying? It's basically he was just saying that I ministered through 3 simple words of I love you, and you know what I'm saying, just kind of being there, just showing him love, you know, and it's just like, and it's just kind of like I'm only doing all those things not because I want to, it's because. I mean, yes, I do want to, but it's not like out of force, which is like I have so much. It's like overflowing.
Like it's like, I got you.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You want to chime in?
No. All right. Yeah.
Baby Jesus.
I mean,
Jesus.
I think
Baby Jesus.
not only giving that, but receiving that as well. Like I know sometimes, I mean, even as believers, like we won't be in the best moods at times, and like sometimes when I'm talking to a client, I'm just like already irritated from having a bad day at work or something of that nature, and the client on the other line tells me, you know, have a blessed day, and it just like
it kind of checks you, right? And
right.
it kind of brings you back in.
Exactly, yeah. And
I
then
feel
it gets that momentum going, and then so on and so forth.
Exactly, bro.
Hey.
It happens to me all the time.
We need to be checked. Dude, accountability is like 100%. I agree with it 1,000%. Like Jesus did in the Bible,
Right.
right? Like his humility is shown so much, and that's a topic on its own. I don't want to dig too deep, but accountability, man, is like what we long for. It's like the biggest thing we long for, but the biggest thing we push away, like at every single second.
100%.
Like I don't know how many times we have heard, all right, everybody, you know, find your accountability partner. Make sure you have an accountability partner. We're like, yeah. You know, we write it down, and it's
Bro,
like,
Right, like,
Like,
yo,
really-
text me when you about to do that, or when you about
You
to,
and I were literally accountability partners for like 2 weeks.
literally, and then
weeks.
it was so bad. At one point, we started counting, like, hey, did you do the thing we weren't supposed to do? Yeah, me too. You know, like we kind of. Whoa. Listen, hey, man, this is just real life, man. I think everybody in the
Open
viewers
book.
can
Open
definitely relate to that statement. And you know what? It is what it is, man. This is real life, bro. This is the real
look,
biscuits
but
here.
if I can say something, the biggest thing, and you know what's crazy is that somebody actually made an app so that it can block those things that we were just talking about. If you guys look into it,
I saw. Yeah,
it's like a digital accountability partner.
had to pay.
But I think the biggest thing we forget about when we think about accountability partner, we think about like, oh, the person I have to call when I'm gonna sin.
Right.
Yeah.
It's
It's
like,
like-
it has a bad.
It does, but the thing is, we're catching it all wrong. It's like it's the person you're supposed to fellowship with, so that the sin ultimately could be prevented, because they're keeping you accountable, not just
Right.
when you're going to sin or when you're about to sin, but on a daily basis or on like
Yeah.
a weekly basis, to where you know you're like, dang, if I do this in about like 30 minutes, whoever it is, Joe's gonna call me, and I'm gonna feel like crap. I'm definitely gonna ask him to pray, and we're gonna repent, but I'm gonna feel like crap. So you probably end up not doing it. But when
Right.
you have to wait, like he may not even call me, like I'm not even, like when it's not even a thought in your brain. And this is why I tell people, keep Jesus on your mind 24/7.
For sure.
Regardless if it's sexual sin or, you know, a sin of pride or sin of anger, whatever sin, you keep Jesus on your mind 24/7. You don't have to worry about thinking about something else other than him.
Right.
And if you keep brothers and accountability and fellowship in mind, you don't really have to.
No, for sure. Definitely all easier said than done.
It is.
Definitely.
But this is why we have to actually do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This is why, like, people are like, oh, you know, like you said, it's easier said than done. But there has to come a point in time where you be like, you know what? I'm going to suck it up. You know, because we're all sinners at the end of the day. Anybody who says they're without sin doesn't have the truth in them. But comes a point in time where you're like, I'm going to be a man. I'm going to stand up and say, I'm done with this. You know what I mean? Because one day we're going to be at the feet of Jesus, and he's going to say, I gave you a new life. Not only, because if you believe in Jesus, and you're saying, I repented of my sins and I accepted him in my life, you're saying, God, I took your new life and I did, and he's going to say, this is what you did with your new life. You know, I gave you all these chances, or I did all this stuff. Yes, Jesus is the ultimate redeemer, but what do we want to be like on that day?
Right.
You know what I mean? We just read in 1 Peter, you know what I mean? Like, you know, it's the time now to be looking inside to yourself and really saying, am I going to leave with Jesus when he comes again?
Yeah, and I think kind of like what I was saying earlier in the conference, like we don't take it serious now because like we feel that time now is like so far from now. So it's just like, okay, I can wild out later, but I'll just repent about it like when I'm settled down or like when I'm 30s and my 40s.
Yeah. We always have we have the thought of time being on our side as a luxury.
Like Judgment Day, like I always think of it as like ages from now. But at the end of the day, I have no idea. Like I could, like
it could literally be
guaranteed.
Right. Let me rebuke that in the name of Jesus. Knock on the word. Tell all about it. But no, but that's the truth. And that's the ultimate question is that's really what it comes down to. Like, am I gonna make it? Am I gonna make the cut into Heaven's Gate, or am I gonna barbecue down below? And I say barbecue as like a little sugarcoating fashion, but really, it's
burning.
The fire does not go out.
Right.
The thirst will not be quenched. Like that alone is like I don't need that. I don't want that.
Dude, speaking of that topic, hell, there's a guy on YouTube. You guys should check it about it. I think it was like 40 Minutes in Hell or something like that. And it's a guy, and he just kind of just talks about like his experience when God took him down to hell while he was drinking water down in his kitchen.
Yeah, I know exactly. I've heard that.
The dude like teleported to hell in his drawers in the middle of his kitchen.
Minding his business. Hey, it was like midnight, right?
No, midnight. He left at like 15, came back at like a 22 or something like that.
Right.
I don't know, my math is kind of wrong, but you get the gist.
No. I'm gonna check this one out, but you have to. I'm gonna send you guys one too, where it was a young guy. He was he's a believer, but he wasn't like living his life with Jesus, and Jesus kind of
confronted, right?
Did one of those, and he was getting rushed to the hospital, and he had the heaven hell experience.
Un negrito, right?
Yeah,
bald.
God.
Yeah,
no, not bald.
He like did Satan like look at him and then not want him or something?
That's another guy though.
But that's a good one too. So many testimonies. Testimonies are powerful, bro.
Dude, let me tell you something. For everybody, these testimonies, like, yes, listen to them. One, back them, corroborate them with the word. But most of these testimonies, people are speaking the truth. Like, people are trying to tell people something. Like,
and it's like the same common like denominator.
And going and with this topic, and going almost touching with the topic we have about college. One of the first things I was actually telling a buddy of mine that was in college is like, look, your way of thinking says that if you're a good person, all this stuff, right? Basically, he was saying like, me being a Christian was okay in what he believes because then I'll still be good, right? Mm-hmm. But then I was like, dude, if that's okay, then we'll both be good. But if I'm right, and not that if I'm right, it was just because we were just talking, but if the Bible's right on what it says, and Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life,
right? And
only through him that you are accepted into heaven and meet with the Father, and you don't believe that, then I'm good, and you're not. And that was a conversation we were having, and he kind of like sat there stooped, and it's almost a point, it's like, oh, well, it's this whole subjective truth, you believe what you believe. That's all fine and dandy, but somebody's going to be right one day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Somebody will be right one day.
Right. And it's who's willing to really risk it. Like, do you really want to risk it? You know what I'm saying? Risk the whole essential if you're right or you're wrong.
Yeah.
If you're wrong...
I mean, I think the biggest thing for people is like they don't want to feel like they're crippled, they're under rule or regulation because they're following Jesus or going to church. The biggest thing I can tell anybody is that I've never met someone 100% fully loving the Lord Jesus and living out his life 100%. Yes, everybody's a sinner, but nonstop throwing themselves into the pool that is the Holy Spirit of Jesus and say they've ever lived a bad life. Not one person. I've met people that have been like wishy-washy, lukewarm. Oh, I didn't really like it, so I left. Or some people that never even had a relationship with Jesus that call themselves Christian, that they'd be like, oh, whatever. And even some people are like, no, I know Christians that are not really liking it. If you meet a Christian that doesn't really like being a Christian, you should probably ask them if they're really a Christian. Agree?
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, because I've never definitely. Have you ever met somebody so sold out for God where they said, I'm living I'm not really, like, it's not the best?
Wait, say that one more time.
Have you ever met anyone that's been so sold out for the Lord?
Like so on fire?
So on fire, like that's your mom.
Right.
At any point in time, have you ever believed that she's living a bad life?
No.
I
don't.
I've never met anyone who's been sold out for Jesus say, it could be better. Like, in the sense of it's not going well. Like, Jesus is just not enough.
Oh,
I've never met somebody who's like, I mean, there could be more. Like, never. I've never met anybody sold out. Now, I've met people that have been like in the middle, didn't really have a relationship with God, that they've said other things, but that's because that's that.
Right, exactly.
But when you're sold out for Him, what could be better? You're not really trapped. You're kind of
There's nothing, but and that's the thing though. There is nothing better than exactly that. There's nothing better. I don't care who you are, what you're gonna tell me. There's nothing is better than what God can give us and the sense of fulfillment that He provides. Nothing can
the joy
nothing can top that. And the craziest thing is that like a lot of people will still run to whatever they want to and attempt to try to
fulfill
especially a lot of people who like grew up in church and then dipped.
Yeah.
And I'm talking to all those people right now because I was there. And like I know deep down they're probably listening to this. They're like, bro, like deep down they miss it. They miss it. And they're miserable. And they're settling for whatever that is that they're going through. And it's because we're stubborn, I think. I don't know. I don't even know why we do that. Like, it's just like stubbornness maybe.
You could say like they don't know that they miss it. Like they feel like empty. Like despite the fact that they're trying to fill this void with so many other things, like living a worldly life. But like they don't understand like this is what you're needing.
Exactly.
Yeah. I'm telling you, but
then even though that same thing that they're needing, it's like they're low-key still feeling repulsive of that one thing that they're needing. And then that's why they don't want to associate anything with...
Because, and maybe we can all agree to this, it is the stubbornness, because we've been at that point where we're like, I'm just not going to do it.
Yeah.
I'm just not going to do it today.
Yeah, definitely.
We've been to there. We've been there.
I think everybody has.
Oh, yeah, we've been there.
Even pastors.
I mean, we've been there. People have been there, but it's the decision of, you know what, I'm going to do it anyways.
Right.
Yeah.
Where we find the revelation and the redemption and who the Lord is.
Definitely, bro.
You can't chase the Lord off of your emotions.
Yeah. Oh. Say it louder for the people in the back.
You can't you can't chase your Lord off because you're not. It's not about your emotions. I mean, emotions are a part of it, yes, but if you put your foundation of Christ on emotions, then it's gonna be a rocky foundation.
Definitely,
yes,
bro.
Sir.
Without a doubt. And that ties in with so much what's going on with right now with the whole corona, with the whole fear thing.
Yeah.
With like, you know, like just like how you said you can't place it on emotions, you know what I'm saying? You can't place on the emotion of fear. Like you can't place it on, you know what I'm saying? People, especially with the whole corona situation now, like, oh, I'm scared. Not really. Yeah. Definitely be wise, but you know, the whole fear, you gotta put your faith on something stable, and that's God.
Hey, just stand firm. Hey, so look, we are going a little bit over, and I know you boys got to go. It is late night, literally, with Mike and Mateo, but let me just say this. Thank you again. It has been an honor. Hopefully, all the people listening, they've enjoyed watching you guys here and laughing and you know, and chit-chatting. Hopefully, we get to do this next week. And it's a little bit more blended out, better communication. Shout out to my wife.
Work on it.
Working on communication. Hey, but we've had a great time. Hey, again, at the Michael Schoon on Instagram. If you want to hit up that guy, he may be big plugged in, but the best way to reach him is going to be through the Gmail right there, that email there. If you want to ask any questions specifically to him, we will be back next week with these guys. I just want to bless everyone out there. I want to say thank you for joining in once again. Thank you for sticking with us even through all those technical difficulties. But we just want to bless you, and we thank you, and we praise Jesus always. See you guys next time.